The world is experiencing changes like never before, and the global business event industry must create more value and benefits. Delivering higher purpose business events through legacy impact and being environmentally sustainable is the key. The future of business events is here, and we are ready. Today, we celebrate another milestone for Sarawak, where Kuching is now a new member of the Hybrid City Alliance. Thanks to MySEP Progressive Initiative, Kuching is one of 4 cities in Malaysia to participate alongside Kuala Lumpur, Kota Kinabalu, Penang, and 18 other members worldwide. Hybrid City Alliance connects the world to a global network of partners to provide knowledge, innovation, and tools to produce hybrid and multi-city events around the globe. Along with our initiative towards advancing the digitalization of business events industry, more than 20 of our industry partners across Sarawak are certified digital event specialists from the international bodies such as Professional Convention Management Association, in short, PCMA. In Progress is a digital bidding and business platform for our business partner to respond to bidding, business, and marketing opportunities. As of today, more than 100 industry partners have attended the training. Coming up for Sarawak is the Centralized Collaboration Data Sharing, in short, BEData, a digital platform to capture an overview of Sarawak's business events economic impact by collecting business events data from government and private sector. By hosting your conventions and exhibitions, corporate meetings, and corporate incentive in Sarawak, your event will be tech-savvy, socially and environmentally responsible that will leave a lasting legacy.
We are savages. Yes, we are. But that was 100 years ago.
36.5. Okay, pass.
Sarawak, the land of hornbills and giant flowers, where people smile a lot and everyone's your friend, even the headhunters. Welcome to Sarawak's new normal.
Sir. 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 Your temperature is fine, but you can't go in like this.
What? Why not?
You'll need to have a mask on before entering.
Huh?
Follow me.
The essentials, you already know this. Wear a face mask at all times. Sneeze into a flax elbow or tissue. Dispose tissues and face masks into a designated bin. Wash your hands with soap for 20 seconds. Here's a trick you can use.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Follow the new normal. Download contact tracing apps and scan the QR code before entering premises. Go through temperature screening. Practice physical distancing, and it's 1 meter, so remember, not so close. Use alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
You, sir, may now enter.
Learn and be inspired. Remember to wear your face mask throughout the event. And now, explore and be excited. Greet the Malaysian way. Sarawak is known for its undeniably good food, but there is a lot more. Welcome to Sarawak.
This is a new horizon. One we'd never imagined. In a land as old as time lies the ancient wisdom of mankind. We are all in search of something greater, to find meaning in the mysteries long forgotten. What if we went back to where it all began and reconnect with our origin? Now feel the rhythm of Sarawak. This is our prayer for the world. May you come alive even in the stillness as you awaken to newfound senses. this life be a more immersive journey for as far as you wander. Sarawak, your journey begins here.
Welcome to the Rising Impact of Business Events or Tribe, brought to you by Business Events Sarawak, BESarawak, International Congress and Convention Association ICCA, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture Sarawak, the Iceberg and Gaining Edge. This session is streaming on BESarawak's Facebook and YouTube. Give it a like and share. Conventions are no longer just vehicles of knowledge, innovation and partnerships. It is perhaps the most compelling platform for positive societal transformation. Our utmost welcome to our guest of honor, the Right Honourable Datuk Patinggi Dr. Abang Haji Abdul Rahman Zohari bin Tun Datuk Abang Haji Openg, Chief Minister of Sarawak, the Honourable Datuk Sri Haji Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture Sarawak and Minister of Youth and Sports Sarawak, the Honourable Datuk Sebastian Ting, Assistant Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture Sarawak, Mr. 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗙𝗢𝗪, Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture Sarawak, Tan Sri Datuk Sri Dr. Muhammad Leo Michael Toyad Abdullah, Chairman of Business Events Sarawak, Ms. Amelia Rosiman, CEO of Business Events Sarawak, Mr. James Rees, President of International Congress and Convention Association ICCA, Mr. 𝗙𝗘𝗦𝗙𝗢𝗪, CEO of International Congress and Convention Association ICCA, ICCA friends, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, just a little background about the event. Legacy Impact is a global movement for the evolution of business events. Today, we are featuring Sarawak as a successful case study in forging collaboration with the government sector. Today, we look at the rising impact of business events and why this is the industry's biggest evolution. Why should destinations redefine the true value of business events? James Rees has an answer to this.
Hello, my name is James Rees, President of ICCA, the International Congress and Convention Association. I would like to send my very best wishes to all of our ICCA members and our industry friends and colleagues across Malaysia, and to thank Sarawak's Chief Minister, Datuk Patinggi Zohari, and Minister Datuk Karim for the opportunity to be part of the discussions during this Business Events Sarawak Legacy Initiative. The partnership between ICCA and the business events industry in Malaysia is very important, and we value the relationship highly. As ICCA President, it is a great honour to be able to be part of such a prestigious event, and I thank you for the invitation to speak today. This feeling of honour is enhanced by a sense of optimism for our industry as we begin to open our destinations and venues to the international events that sit at the heart of the business events industry. I have just returned from my first overseas business trip since the start of the pandemic, the ICCA Congress Hub in Paris, where we have seen the power of face-to-face meetings and the reconnecting of business colleagues and industry friends. It is undeniably the case that our industry has seen great difficulties in the last 2 years. However, I know that all the participants in Sarawak this week will welcome the opportunity to debate, learn, and share experiences as we all continue to build the recovery and drive the economic and legacy benefits that are the unique proposition of the international meetings industry. I believe it is important that we reflect on and cannot ignore what has happened over the last 2 years of the global pandemic. We must recognize that people are learning to deal with changes in their work-life balance. Research is showing that those who work from home find that the ability to separate work from their personal life is becoming more difficult as they become merged into one. In addition, the age of digital revolution has enabled so much flexibility and inclusivity for people that we cannot ignore. The digitization of the events industry is something we should embrace, as it will give us the opportunity to ensure that the traditional sharing of knowledge, so fundamental to the success of international congresses, continues to be delivered to those that are able to attend events face-to-face, but also to those that cannot. The opportunity to create new ways of connecting people as we develop our thinking about meeting design will allow us to drive the economy through events that include sustainability, diversity, and, very importantly, inclusivity. As we know, and as attendees in Sarawak will experience this week, being taken out of our everyday environment and being with other people is the best way to generate new ideas and true innovation. And with change being a constant for us all in the current business environment, we must all be prepared to adapt the future of the international meetings industry to use innovative meeting design, which embraces both traditional values of knowledge transfer and legacy, while combining the very best in modern technology. We should remain confident in the fact that there is no escaping the value of people meeting face-to-face, as you will no doubt experience this week, where communication and true understanding is clearer, trust is built, and debate leads to innovation, something that the leadership in Sarawak fully understands. I congratulate and applaud Sarawak for its trailblazing initiatives to unearth, understand, and push such convention legacies. Their 2020 report about hosting conventions in Sarawak from both economic impact and legacy impact from real conventions hosted by Sarawak revealed that there is much that can be achieved with this increased awareness. ICCA has first-hand experience of Sarawak as a world-class destination, and we were delighted to support the release of the report, the 55th ICCA Congress 2016 case study, which clearly illustrated how Sarawak has leveraged its role as Congress host to share the long-term benefits long after delegates have left Kuching in Sarawak. Once again, congratulations on organising today's Business Events Sarawak Legacy Initiative, and we at ICCA look forward to our continued cooperation both now and in the future. For now, from London, thank you once again and goodbye. Thank you.
Great words there, James. Almost 2 years since the disruption of business and travel, and we are on the road to recovery. But how? How is Sarawak tackling this disruption and restarting the industry? 𝗙𝗙𝗟𝗢𝗪 will shine the light on the resurrection of business events.
Ooh-ha! Good afternoon to everyone, or good morning, and good night to those joining from other sides of the world. Thank you for joining us today, especially to ICCA and our global friends. Thank you, James, for your insight, and I must agree that the value of business events is more than just meet the eye. Malaysia as a nation and Sarawak as its largest state is among the region's most active hosts in business events. So when the pandemic struck, it was clear that Sarawak needed to be distinct and offer more to stakeholders as a response to these changes. We are witnessing a resurrection of business events, not just here, but throughout the world. Business events are transformative with the power to develop our sectors, communities, the economy, environment, and policies, which is why legacy impact is so important to us and also to you. Legacy impact is a strategic approach towards creating a better world, which can be done using Best Legacy Initiative guideline. This guideline is a joint effort between the Sarawak government and the business events industry through BESarawak to help align your convention with Sarawak 13 key priority areas and UN SDGs. And who better to inspire our journey to redefine the purpose of business events than ICCA? My proposal to you is to collaborate with our agency, BESarawak, and co-create values that stimulate and drive economic and social transformation. Be it a simple conversation or in partnership to advocate legacy impact, or considering Sarawak as your next host destination if you are an association, your support will help all of us create the change we want to see in business events and in our respective communities. To better explain Best Legacy Initiatives and its benefits, I will leave you with a video that will do the talking.
As the world moves into a new era, we are experiencing changes in the way we organize and host conventions. Ooh-ha! We are Business Events Sarawak, an organization dedicated to ensuring your business events are successful and working towards defining a higher business purpose. Our vision is to create real change for you. Yes, you. Our government and corporate affiliates to develop sectors, initiate active engagements and enhance our destination competitiveness through superior branding and profiling. Our business events planners to unlock new funding and restructure objectives by building profiles aligned with national and international focus areas. And fellow business event partners, it's your chance to create premium, groundbreaking products and services that increase your return on investment and success rate for bidding and hosting. We are making a bold and unique proposition to all of you. Host your conventions in Sarawak to generate long-lasting, positive impacts and essentially leave behind legacies. Together, we can advance your organization and your sector to ultimately make Sarawak and the world a better place. Here's the Game Changer Plan. Let us introduce you to Legacy Impact. Think of the convention impact as an iceberg. On the surface, we've been harvesting the economic impact. However, down below are even greater returns. There are 5 pillars to measure legacy impact. The sectoral pillar evaluates the progress and development in industries and sectors. Community and social pillar examine the social benefits for the local community. Economic trade and investment identify new trade possibilities and employment opportunities. Environment to support awareness and sustainability. While the political pillar assesses the change in governance as a result of a positive policy development. These pillars are aligned with the 17 UN SDGs and Sarawak government's 13 key priority areas. Sounds good, right? through legacy impact, you can have it all. So is your convention ready for the game changer? Because we are. Check out our business event Sarawak Legacy Initiative to guide your legacy creation. There's even a reward program to give you extra perks and mileage for your legacy impact. Visit us now at www.businesseventsarawak.com because every business event is small enough to care and large enough to make a difference.
Well, on behalf of Sarawak Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture, thank you, 𝗙𝗢𝗥𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗪𝗏, as we say in our local language, for making today a page in the history book. Legacy impact is the new economy that will plant a seed of hope in everyone's future. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Datuk Sri Karim. Excellent take by the Minister on how we are resurrecting the industry in Sarawak, and I'm sure we can all agree that the video has covered the fundamentals of the Best Legacy Initiative. Seeing is believing, and now Amelia Roziman will show us how the Best Legacy Initiative was put into action for the 55th ICCA Congress in 2016.
Thanks, Ale. Ooh-ha! Hello to all business event tribes from Malaysia and around the world, and also to ICCA. I must say that I cannot agree more with what James and Datuk Karim said earlier about resurrecting business events through legacy impact to rebuild the global economy and accelerate social development. Also, thank you again, Datuk Karim, for sharing Best Legacy Initiative info video and sharing the Best Legacy Initiative pillars, alignment, and what legacy is all about. Before I proceed with the case study, I would like to acknowledge those who made the 55th ICCA Congress 2016 case study report a success. We are very grateful for your input and contribution. So I'm going to present it to you today. Alright, as you can see, the pathway of Best Legacy Initiative starts from the research and bidding stage. However, Best Legacy Initiative is flexible in the sense that convention legacies can even be measured post-event, similar to ICCA Congress 2016. The results are consolidated using Business Event Legacy Initiative template provided. When I was working on this report using the template, it honestly gave me a clearer picture of what we have done without knowing that we did it. As one of the joint organizer committee members, if we had this information 4 years ago, from organizing framework, vision, and meeting legacies to the outcome and indicators, I believe that the overall organization of the Congress would have been better because we would have known how to achieve a higher purpose of the Congress and give a much clearer direction to all committees and stakeholders. Let's use the political pillar as an example to explain this better. Our vision under the political pillars are business events to be recognized as its own industry. And the ROI from legacy impact is equivalent to the economic impact when it comes to the justifying to the government's investment for this Congress. To achieve this vision, we collaborated with and included the government sector in organizing committee during the organizing phase to work hand in hand to achieve the gold standard of the Congress. Legacy impact was also included in ICCA's education programs attended by our government representative. The outcome of this government involvement was a well-informed sector that would lead to long-term changes such as continued inter-organizational collaboration and increased commitment to the industry through BESarawak. These changes were validated by successfully forming Sarawak Business Events Association early this year, while the Business Events Federation and Council are being developed together with our industry partners. Second validation was business events being officially part of the Post-COVID Development Strategy 2030, which is the government's long-term plan for economic recovery. Legacy impact is now highlighted as one of the initiatives. Not only are we on the way to becoming a standalone industry, but we managed to convince the government that the ROI of legacy impact is just as significant as the economic impact. This is excellent progress as we aim to make Sarawak a successful role model for developed second-tier destination in Asia-Pacific via legacy impact. Next are the alignments. Alignments are important as you can see the 55th ICCA Congress is aligned with 3 out of Sarawak's 13 key priority areas, namely service industry, service industry, environment, and social development. As for UN SDG, the Congress achieved 6 out of 17 goals, namely quality education, job and economic growth, innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities, life on land, and partnership for the goals. Here we have the final consolidation of each legacy pillar and the alignment of the UN SDGs and 13 key priorities area. For the 55th ICCA Congress 2016, a total of 17 legacy impact impressions were reflected. When we present the legacy impact report to the government, we will report on the pillars, UN SDGs, and 13 key priorities area total impression, along with ensuring that 50% of business events in Sarawak are qualified and delivered for legacy impact. In fact, these report components are BESarawak KPIs under the post-COVID strategic development of 10 years from the government. And there you have it. Keep an eye in your email for the link to download the Best Legacy Initiative digital booklet and the 55th ICCA Congress 2016 full report. Thank you. Well, Saleh, over to you.
Thank you for sharing your insights, Amelia. Up next is Tribal Wisdom, where we have some of the most visionary key opinion leaders sharing personal stories and insights. Today's Tribal Wisdom comes from none other than Sarawak's Chief Minister, 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗔𝗪𝗓𝗪, on his days as Tourism Minister and how this shaped his advocacy for convention legacies.
First of all, I would like to express my congratulations to Business Event Sarawak for launching the Business Event Sarawak Legacy Initiative, also known as BES Legacy, together with ICCA. Legacy impact is a powerful message, and business events are the voices to carry that message. In 2011, when I was Sarawak's Minister of Tourism, I could see the future of the tourism industry as an important sector of the economy. One of the important contributions are business events under the auspices of ICCA. ICCA's education and guidance are fundamental to Sarawak business events development. I was invited by ICCA to Buenos Aires in 2015, Argentina, to receive the flag for the 15th ICCA Congress 2016. That flag symbolized Sarawak as the next big contender that triggered Sarawak first steps to be the destination for business events. An unknown, secluded second-tier destination on Borneo did the unthinkable and hosted the Congress with all the Kuching folks welcoming the ICCA delegates. That amazing year put Sarawak into the international limelight and made us one of the role models for second-tier destination. So thank you ICCA for believing that Sarawak can and will succeed. Recently, the Sarawak government formulated the Post-COVID Development Strategy 2030, in short PCDS 2030, to recalibrate our destination development and achieve economic prosperity, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability. In fact, we included business events into this strategy, and that is how serious we are about your events flourishing here in Sarawak. With the best legacy initiative, we can balance people, profit, purpose, and planet together. It is the strongest collaboration between the government and convention planners because of how compelling value creation is. As Sarawak's Chief Minister, I encourage you not to lose sight of your dreams. What I wish for Sarawak is coming to life. I intend to share the best of this destination with everyone when the border reopens. Let the best legacy empower us all to plant that seed of hope into our future generation. Thank you very much and have a great week ahead.
Thank you, Datuk Patinggi Abang Zohari, for that eye-opening take on legacy. Up until now, Legacy Impact is a story told from the lens of government leaders and the Bureau. But how is Legacy Impact changing the future for other stakeholders? Led by Gary Grimmer, this is Legacy Impact, changing stakeholders' future.
Greetings all, my name is Gary Grimmer. I'm the Executive Chairman of Gaining Edge based in Melbourne, Australia. It's a great pleasure to be with you today as part of your launch of the Business Events Sarawak Legacy Initiative. We're excited to be part of that launch, and we've got a great panel of experts to talk to you. I think it'll be entertaining, enjoyable, and informative. We're looking forward to having a bit of a conversation about how legacy can be a driver of business as well as a driver of social and economic benefits to Sarawak, or to any community that's pursuing legacy in a really smart way. We're going to get right into it because we don't have much time. I'll be introducing the speakers one at a time as I ask them a question. And I want to kick off with James Latham. So let me introduce James. James is the founder of the Iceberg. I think most of you have heard of that. The Iceberg is really the leading voice for our industry's efforts to educate governments, the community, the industry about the importance of legacy. So in a lot of ways, I would say that James is the lead voice globally in this space. As far as kudos, he's received a Joint Meetings Industry Council Power and Profile Award in 2015 for industry leadership. So again, a great authority and a knowledgeable person about what's happening in the legacy space all over the world. So starting with you, James, I wanted to ask you to take us through a little bit of a big picture look globally. In your experience, who sees convention legacies as important, and why are legacies important for the meetings industry? So when I say who, does the industry, do they get it? Does the government get it? The bureaus get it? And why do you think that legacies are important and advancing our industry?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Gary, and hello to everybody. Legacy is most important to the client. The clients are demanding that they achieve something meaningful because otherwise they're losing relevance. If you take medical associations or if you take trading communities, they actually come together to actually achieve something in the form of an output, not just the economic impact that a lot of the members of the Sarawak business events community will enjoy. The key thing nowadays in the world of bidding for international conventions is to make sure that you can achieve something that is aligned to the mission and purpose of that organization. It used to be the case, I think, Gary, when we first met, I was obviously a child at that particular stage, when business events were really just an adjunct of tourism. They were seen for what they delivered in terms of hotel spend and their contribution in, if you like, the direct economic terms. That's changing, and it's changing quite rapidly in the context of the Sustainable Development Agenda, where increasingly you'll find actually next month when COP26 takes place in Glasgow, there will be an awful lot of scrutiny on that event in terms of, okay, so you are here fighting climate change, for example, and yet you're delivering something in the region of 300,000 people, which is part of the community that is traveling to Glasgow. 25,000 of them will be delegates to the event, but of course we'll have the environmental pressure groups, we'll have IGOs, we'll have NGOs, because it's the most pressing challenge facing society. So the big question that will be facing the organisers of COP in terms of the UN FCCC will be, what are you actually achieving as a result of your meeting? And if you can't point to those legacies or the outcomes that result from that meeting, then the big question mark is, why are you having it? So I think the big thing that we need to consider when we're looking at legacy, which is a very grand word, but really is the long-term impacts, the long-term outcomes that manifest themselves, as you often remind me, Gary, that when a government or a governmental gathering meets a business or a professional event, it may result in a policy change. Now, that policy change in and of itself is not a legacy, but the result of that policy change may well lead to a legacy in relation to patient care or a change in approach and the result of that approach that manifests itself maybe in a societal or a social or an economic legacy.
And that's so an important thing. That's important to
Gary.
Understand the difference between meeting outcomes and meeting legacies. And you hit on a key point. You hit on a key point there, which is, why are we having this meeting? So I want to go next to Ingrid, who is with the Garden of Hope Foundation in Taipei. Garden of Hope is an NGO that founded the Asian Network of Women's Shelters, and they've been around for about 3 decades. They were the local host for the 4th World Conference on Women's Shelters in Kaohsiung, Taiwan in 2019. First time that meeting was in Asia. And they've also won a recent award because Best Cities in ICCA confer an award called the Incredible Impacts Award, and they won it for this conference. So with that, I'd like to ask Ingrid to talk to us for a moment. Tell us about your Kaohsiung convention, if you would, Ingrid. What was the Garden of Hope hoping to accomplish, wanting to accomplish through that meeting? And I'd like to hear a bit about how supportive Taiwan's government was. So tell us about that meeting.
Thank you, Gary, for your introduction. So as the host of the 4th World Conference of Women's Shelters, we view the conference legacy, which is impact and solidarity, as the key success factor of this conference. Legacy actually sets the right direction for us and serves as the assets that we could build on. When organizing the conference, it was solidarity that kept the previous 3 conferences with us through the whole preparation process. And they assisted us in organizing fundraising and recruiting participants. So the 4th conference was firstly held in Asia in order to bring more Asian perspectives in ending gender-based violence. So with the aim to build solidarity and strong networks around the world in mind, we designed a program that could maximize formal and informal exchanges between participants with diverse events including like 13 side events and 10 study tours. And we were overjoyed to see that our efforts of bringing Asian partners along with Western organizations have blossomed for the world to see more Asian perspectives and strengthen regional and global ties between NGOs, creative engagements with social issues, and the establishment of a global directory. So the knowledge and network have become more very important assets to our association. And through the legacy, through solidarity, we will hand on the legacy to the next host of the 5th conference. And when we organized the conference, which was held in Kaohsiung, Taiwan, the local tourism bureau supported us in study tours, which included on-site immersive learnings and friendly customized tours. I would say that supporting the conference to be held in this city was a wise decision of the local government. A lot of celebrities wrote about their attendance in Kaohsiung, Taiwan on social media. For instance, 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗢𝗪𝗓, the Oscar-nominated leading actress, attended the conference as a keynote speaker, and her posts on Facebook and other social media platforms prompted more than 20 media reports in Central and South America, and all of them cover her travel in Kaohsiung. And in the future, whenever World Conference of Women's Shoulders is reported, Kaohsiung will be mentioned again and again. So what I want to emphasize is that the benefit of attracting conventions to be held in the city could be expensive and long-lasting. It gives a new meaning to the city.
Well, that's a great case study, because what happened was there was a very important legacy left for the entire world in terms of strengthening that network. But also obviously one there specifically in Kaohsiung and Taiwan. Thank you for that, Ingrid. I want to go to 𝗕𝗓 next, introducing 𝗕𝗓. She's director of the Medical Conference Partners in Kuala Lumpur, which is a PCO that's been around for about 13 years. She's also vice president of conferences for MASIOS, and she's an adjunct lecturer in Taylor's University, so she's obviously a very smart person as well. So with that, I'd like to ask 𝗕𝗓 this question about how you see your organization and the importance of convention legacies. How does it actually benefit PCOs to be involved in this process?
Thank you, Gary. I think when it comes to legacies and how it helps the PCOs, it actually gives a lot of meaning to our work, because whenever we have the newer generation, the younger generation, and even for all of us, the pandemic has showcased, it has put the spotlight on the meaning of our work and where we spend a lot of our time and effort. So when you look at having a legacy, having an impact, having a greater purpose to what we do, then having a legacy or building a conference and making sure that it leaves a legacy behind gives us all the greater purpose in order to put in the extraordinary effort that will create a lasting impact. Thank you.
Thanks for that, 𝗕𝗓. Going to Anthony next. Anthony Wong, I think many of you know him. He's a leader in the industry in Malaysia. He's got two companies, well, one company and a hotel. His company is Asian Overland Services, and the hotel is the Frangipani Langkawi. He has been a real leader globally. He's had tireless efforts to promote ecotourism, and those have been recognized throughout Malaysia and internationally. He's, as I say, a real leader, and he knows how DMCs and hotels can help drive long-lasting social, environmental, and sectoral development. And he also knows why that's good for the business as well as for the community. So again, Anthony, some of your personal perspectives about why legacy is important, and also why it's important for you as a DMC in terms of your business success.
In the business event, when they come for a conference, often they like to choose a destination that's interesting. So they may not remember the conference, but they will remember the site tour. In Sarawak, there are longhouses. There are nature resort. And one of the conference that we did was UFRO, the Forestry Conference. Until today, after 25 years, they still talk about the pre and post tour, the best ever in the history of forestry. So, and of course, we are we develop homestay, we develop ecotourism, and that's important. People remember, and we open up new areas, especially in nature tourism. In nature tourism, you expose the community get involved. So we developed the Stamang Longhouse, and we just improve the whole longhouse to have toilets, facility, and the guides were all done by the longhouse community. So there is opportunity. And in terms of the hotel side, I'm a naturalist, environmentalist. It's the greenest resort in Southeast Asia. We have 200 ways to save. So we show people that you can save energy, water waste. We have an organic farm here. We have a table to farm, program. We produce 1.5 tons of mangoes, 1 ton of papaya. We can show people hotels can also be involved in making the destination popular, and more people after the conference, or they use a hotel that is very sustainable, that actually are very friendly. So more and more are looking into sustainability involving the whole supply chain. And that's very important if we want to have a legacy in any of our business that we do.
So, Anthony, how does pursuing all of this, how does promoting legacy and trying to explore how to increase the legacy outcomes of events, how does that help you as a DMC business-wise?
You have to you have to be aware of technology. Like now, in the resort, we only use electric vehicle. Well, of course, we have solar panel. Actually, the more developed country really likes what you do, that you are aware of climate change and you're trying to help, and of course, being the hotel and travel side, we always involve the local community. And people like to see that, like we always try to promote art and craft of the local community. And, you can always buy stuff from China and Taiwan and Indonesia, in Malaysia. Okay, now I'm locked down in Langkawi. So, it's important that any event, the flow of fund flows into local community. Like when we have a barbecue seafood, we actually get from the farmer and the fisherman as much as possible directly, or just with the wholesaler, so that they really benefit. We try not to go to the big supermarket because they can do well.
So between helping to develop longhouses as part of cultural tourism and using local products, you're making a big footprint there as far as helping the local economy. I want to move on because we have very short time and we've got 5 great panelists. My very next guest is a very distinguished person who I think most of the people there in Sarawak know. He's the Permanent Secretary, Mr. 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗔𝗪𝗓. He's part of a government that I would say from my travels is one of the most visionary about this issue of legacy. But he is the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Sarawak. He's the Deputy Chairman of the Sarawak Tourism Board. He's a board member of Tourism Malaysia, as well as the Sarawak Convention Bureau. So with that, Mr. Permanent Secretary, I did want to ask you, as I said, Sarawak's government seems especially enlightened about legacy, and I said it, even visionary. Talk to us a little bit about how your government views legacy, the convention industry as a source of legacy, and in terms of what it can contribute to social and economic benefits there in Sarawak.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Yep. So convention legacies are still, I think, quite underestimated and relatively unknown to many people. But Sarawak, we are working very closely with our agency, Business Events Sarawak, on how we could develop this further and communicate it better to our stakeholders. That's why the conference today is about. Now, from the ministry's perspective, business events contributions go beyond mere tourism spend, but they do have a lot of extensive range of benefits and outcomes which could be considered as living legacies, such as intrinsic personal value, practices, social and economic legacies. So the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, together with Business Events Sarawak, understands its impact and believe it could work for us and the Sarawak government as a whole to achieve our business objectives, especially under the recent post-COVID-19 Strategic Development Plans 2030, also known as PCDS 2030, which I think most Sarawakians know, to make Sarawak a better, sustainable place to visit, to live, and to meet. So convention legacies are very much included as part of our PCDS 10 years policy to achieve a number of objectives, such as securing more diverse business events focus under the Sarawak key priority areas, to create active engagement at the local, national, and international levels through knowledge exchanges, policy development, best practices sharing, collaborations, and I think more importantly, how we could work towards the sustainable development goals. And more importantly, also, we also put in how we could empower the local communities, how to generate more employment opportunities for all our development agenda. Thank you.
And you just mentioned UN SDGs, and I know that your government is very focused on a very strong commitment to advancing those sustainable development goals. Does your government also see conventions, international conventions, as helping you to advance specific industry sectors, sectoral development, cluster development? Is it also about that?
Yeah, I think one of the goals that we are talking about will be how to reduce the poverty, especially at rural areas. So that's why in our plans, we have a lot of objectives put in how we could empower the local communities to develop rural tourism, how they could generate more income, increase their household income through participation in tourism. And I think for business events, a lot of topics actually could be tuned into how through this knowledge sharing, how it will influence the government in coming out with policies, all right, to make this sustainable development happening.
And in your mind, when you look at the other ministries, whether it's the technology minister, or the health minister, or science minister, the education minister, do they see the importance of conventions as a strategy for generating a global network, for generating investments, trade, scientific advancement?
Yes, I think a lot of the other ministries in Sarawak, they are working very closely with Business Events Sarawak in hosting, in organizing, in bidding a lot of international exchange platforms, whether it's physical or even webinars, right? I think is to actually benchmark with the international practices, and also through those knowledge sharing, I think it could actually let them see how could we develop policies, all right, which will be impactful to the local development in terms of sustainability. In terms of, especially I think in Sarawak, we need to improve a lot of access to the rural communities in terms of communication, in terms of transport, in terms of even Wi-Fi network, so that they keep our policies be inclusive, including all the communities from urban to rural areas.
You know, it's interesting. Every area you mentioned, there are lots of conventions in those areas where you can bring in the world's leaders and connect to them. So it's, again, I've said it before. I say it not just here. I say it in a lot of places. Sarawak truly is a leader in seeing things through a visionary lens. So we appreciate that, Mr. Permanent Secretary. Now I wanted to go to a bit of a storytelling part of this panel. I've asked the members to think about a story that illustrates a personal experience they've had about a positive influence of a legacy or a positive impact of a legacy. And I'm going to do this by a show of hands because we may not have time for 5 different stories, but who out there is most excited about telling us a story? And if I don't see a hand, I'll just pick you at random. Okay, James. You're on mute, James. You're on mute. You need to unmute your mic.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I love the point that you were getting to there, Gary, in relation to sectoral development, the rise of intellectual capitalism, and how you use business events as strategic tools to advance society. Just one really good example I have is BESarawak 2014, which was for the diagnostic imaging professional community. So you have a really small tier 3 city on the Canadian East Coast called Halifax in Nova Scotia. And within that, two great academic institutions, Dalhousie University, St Mary's University, and also a research institute headed up by a man called Dr. Ryan Darcy, who was positioned as the ambassador for Halifax to go get BESarawak and bring it to Halifax, because we want to use it as a capacity builder, which is what business events deliver in terms of attracting the knowledge, investment, and talent required to advance a particular sector in a particular destination. Best way to do that: get the big international congress, bring it to Halifax, okay, and then use it as a vehicle to attract that investment, knowledge, and talent. It was quite amazing what happened as a result of BESarawak. Siemens, Hitachi, Fujitsu, and GEC all relocated their R&D into Halifax, as close to the universities and the research institutes as they could, not because they thought, oh, we need to go to the knowledge hub in this area, but for commercial reasons. And those commercial reasons were, if we have access to the knowledge and the talent that we require, we can repopulate the world's hospitals with those MRI tubes. You know, the brain scanning tubes that you get shoved into when you're not feeling particularly well upstairs. Those tubes and that technology is provided by those corporations, and they want to repopulate 6 months before their competitors. So this was purely about the bottom line as far as Siemens and Hitachi and Fujitsu were concerned. But
that's a great case study, because there's Halifax hosting a convention, and not only did they get people visiting Halifax, but they've actually gotten direct investment into the development of their research and development sector. So they're actually building their local industry.
Absolutely. Let me tell you that as a result of that is biomagnetic research engineering is now at the epicenter of the Halifax economy. It and subsequent associated industries is now the biggest employer outside of government in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Now, for a tier 3 city to use a business event as a catalyst for advancing a particular sector to the point where it's the largest sector outside of government is quite phenomenal. And as a case study, it just illustrates that you can actually achieve something even if you're a tier 3 city and become the global intellectual capital of that little part of the DNA of biotech. Quite amazing.
It's a great case study. Okay, who's my next volunteer? I'll volunteer you if you don't volunteer yourself. Okay, Ingrid, I'm going to volunteer you, and then I'll come back. I'll come back to others. Ingrid, switch on your mic. Women in shelters. Unfortunately, we know there are a lot of different reasons why women may need shelters. They may be being exploited, abused. They may be in bad environments, bad physical situations, bad economic situations. What would you say having your convention in Kaohsiung did in terms of your base mission, which is developing and being able to extend shelter to women who need shelter? How did that convention help you do more of that?
Actually, I would say that stories of our lives become our legacy. So others look at the life journey we are on and see a legacy. So like you said, working in an organization that serves women who suffer from gender-based violence, I see women who endure years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. So by telling their stories, these survivors are letting others know that it's possible to overcome both the trauma, violence, and the injustice of the system. So they're using their experiences to help others and showing that there's a way out. These stories are powerful, heartbreaking, and inspiring. One of the survivors told me in the conference, the first time somebody asked me to talk about what happened, it was hard. It's hard every time. But if it changes one life, it matters to me. Domestic violence is such a personal issue, and it's a secret. We must get other people to understand that they're not alone. So some of the survivors now work for preventing gender-based violence and advocate for victims. The legacy that these survivors leave give other victims the courage to speak out and ask for help. So this is the most powerful and positive impact that I see of legacy.
Thank you for that. And I see Anthony raising his hand. So Anthony, turn on your mic and tell us a little bit about what you thought was the best story about a legacy that happened as a result of a meeting that you provided services to.
Yeah, this was something I developed as a DMC because Malaysia is always known for jungle. So we did tours to the National Park Taman Negara. Yeah, in the early days, they didn't have many people, and we started it off with incentive program first. Yeah, and then later on it became a regular tour. Now it's one of the most popular tours that has been developed for national park. And then we developed nature guiding from out of that. The other one is homestay, because some people after the conference, they want to experience real local hospitality in a homestay. And today we have got over 130,000 villages around the country, or maybe 13,000 over villages that's doing homestay. So out of this now, many people do homestay. You know, sometimes they turn it to Airbnb. So out of the interest, pre and post tours, it has developed to be, part of tourism, which is very linked up, as I say, adjunct to conference. Yeah, so it's very important to remember the experience.
Yeah, one of the things a lot of people are talking about in the industry is that community engagement in conventions will be more and more important in the future.
Yes.
Our industry is moving in a more strategic direction where there has to be, as James said at the beginning, why are we having this meeting? That needs to happen from the destination perspective as well. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to accomplish? What legacy can we leave behind if we bring this convention here? And part of what the industry is talking about is having that strategic approach to securing conventions. Not only works in terms of getting more conventions, but it also works in terms of engaging the government and engaging the broader community. So what Anthony just said about engaging the broader community is vitally important. And many conventions are looking for those opportunities when they're selecting their destinations. The next person that I'm going to volunteer is Dee Dee, because I want to hear from a PCO's perspective, what did you think was the greatest legacy you ever saw come out of one of the events that you helped manage?
Thank you. Well, I'm going to share a little bit of a story from a more personal perspective from the individual that benefited from a conference that I organized. It's obvious with medical conferences, you get a lot of exchange of ideas and a lot of exchange of high quality knowledge when international speakers come, when international delegates gather together with our national delegates. But in this particular case, I had a very well-known speaker who was very involved in a very rare condition or rare disease, right? And he was coming all the way to Malaysia for a meeting. And when one of my local surgeons heard about the speaker and he was coming, and he is coming all the way from Kuantan, which is about a 4-hour drive away from Kuala Lumpur in those days. He contacted me and he said he had this young girl who's a patient, who's a teenager and who has stopped schooling in high school because she has been bedridden and she cannot go to school because school was there was no wheelchair ramps in the school and all that. And she faced a bleak future. She was a bright student, but she was just physically unable to move. She was not mobile. parents are not well-to-do. And so he wrote to me and he said, would I be able to get some time with this international speaker for the parents and the girl to be able to get some free consult? Because there was no way they could afford to fly all the way to North America for that treatment. So I organized it, I wrote to the speaker and I put it all together. And I remember on day one of the conference, when we're all busy as PCOs are running around, you know, everything's pulling our attention. And then my professor calls me up and he says, okay, so the ambulance is on the way. So I arranged for them to arrive at the hotel. I found a room for them, put them all together. And I just said, I'll leave you here. You've got 2 hours here in this room. I've got to go. I've got the conference to run. So I went off and I totally forgot about it, right? In the busyness of the next 2-3 days. And on the last day of the conference, my professor from Kuantan came up to me and he said, for it was a great conference. Everyone came. Obviously, everybody had a good time. But he said that what you did for that family, just to connect us, and for the parents and the girl to be able to have that consult, it changed their life. And that just touched me, and that gave me real purpose and a sense of purpose. And whenever I wonder, does the work that we do as conference organizers really matter at the end of the day? Does it really help anyone? But here was a case that it really did help someone, and I had a face to it. So that's just a tiny, humble little story that I wanted to share. Yeah, and I want all organizers out there to remember that the work you do does matter.
That's not a tiny, humble little story. That's a great story about how legacies, you use the expression, they change lives. And it doesn't matter whether it's one life or thousands of lives, but you've given us a really nice story about one person and one family that really benefited, specifically because a convention was happening. It made me think while you were talking that there are medical conventions, since you specialize in those. There are increasingly medical conventions that are saying when we choose a destination, a big part of our choice is where can we make the biggest impact in terms of our science or our medicine. Yeah. And their legacy goals as an association are to reduce disease or to improve treatment or even to reduce mortality. And those things, of course, if they are successful, reduce societal costs. So there are big legacies associated with the effective treatment of diseases and the knowledge sharing that helps that treatment be even stronger. And so again, there are a lot of conventions that are saying, well, if we come to your community, we want to be able to measure when we're done over time, because legacies are long-term, as James said. We want to be able to measure over time, how did this affect the quality of treatment? How did this affect the incident rates, or how did this affect survival rates? So that's an example. At least the health minister should be caring very deeply about using medical conferences as a way to advance medical treatment in Malaysia and all over the world. So I think that's a great case study. I want to go to the permanent secretary next. I'm going to kind of give him a combination question. Certainly, if he has a favorite legacy story from a convention, he can share it. But what I'd most like to hear from Mr. He is to hear from a government perspective, how important do you see the Sarawak Bureau, the Business Event Sarawak, focusing on legacies? If it's part of a strategy to try and advance UN SDGs and build different industry sectors, how important do you see Business Event Sarawak's role? And does the government expect a lot of them? What do you expect of them?
Yep. Okay. Probably I will share a personal experience on the positive impacts of the legacy. Now, it was really a learning curve and amazing experience for me as the state coordination chairman for the 59th ICCA Congress, if you remember, in Asia Pacific Regional Hub that we hosted last year in Kuching. So we have been trying to continue the ICCA CSR program Gift of Love, where in 2016, the delegates donated books to our Sarawak State Library for rural area children. So in 2020, instead of just donating books, we took a step further. We really go down into the community, collaborate with the community in Patan Ai to actually reconstruct an unused hall into a community library for the children and adults from 7 lone houses in the area, with some financial support from our industry. So we ran actually a 9 days, 500 books challenge, which surprisingly, instead of 500 books, we have 7,500 books donated by the local communities and other communities in 9 days. So we formed a library community in the place. And actually our goal is to help the rural school children to develop their love for reading, writing, and learning in general, so that they are more likely to stay on in school and stay on until tertiary education. So this is a type of legacies that, a conference, the delegates' contribution can actually bring about some changes to the local communities. So that's one of my personal experiences. Now, as far as our goals or our hope, aspiration for Sarawak Convention Bureau, definitely we wanted them to continue, all right, their efforts in this legacy impact, so that the state government and our agencies, they can be a role model, all right, to show to the other government agencies and even private sectors, conference organizers, that we do not look at dollars and cents only. Government also do not look at pure visitors arrival, but how, being a convention bureau, being an event organizer, how would you bring impact to the local communities? In particularly, there are so many 17 goals of the Sustainable Development Goal, be it reduction of urban poverty, be it reduction of community access, and there are so many things that we can do to bring about an impact, whether it's social, economic. To me, like, as I said, Sarawak, we really need to go into the community empowerment, how we can involve the local communities in what we are doing, be it tourism, be it business events, so that they can benefit also from what we are doing, so that we can also increase their opportunities in terms of employment, in terms of their household income, so that this becomes a legacy for what we have been doing. Yeah.
Mr. He, I'll tell a personal story, and that is I used to run convention bureaus. And when I meet elected policymakers and government leaders like you, it always reminds me that I thought, oh, I wish I had leaders like that in my communities that I could work with while we were trying to build the convention industry. Because as I said before, you get it and your government gets it. And that's why Sarawak is a real leader in this space. So thank you for your commitment to this industry. So I want to next ask Ingrid the question, from an event organizer's perspective, what are your expectations from the local community? What are you wanting from the Bureau, from the industry, from government to make your legacy dreams come true when you're having a convention?
Actually, when organizing the global conference, the biggest difficulty for NGO association is like the funding. So actually the most practical for us is to sponsor us in the expense of the conference. That would be great.
Do you also see the community, the government, the Bureau helping with this ultimate goal of trying to address the issue of women's shelter?
Yes, especially in Taiwan, the gender equality is advanced in Taiwan. So the government makes a lot of efforts in addressing the issue.
You know, another thing that we look at a lot is government's transformation strategies. Malaysia has one. Most countries have transformation strategies. And one of the common themes you see in those strategies these days, because I've looked at a lot of them, is the issue over women's welfare, whether that be health issues for women, women's equality issues, advancing all kinds of women's issues. So again, there are a lot of conventions that deal in that space about how do you improve the situation and the opportunities for women in society. And most governments are looking for that kind of help. So bringing in the thought leaders of the world is a good way to address it. We are down to about 6 minutes or 5.5 minutes, so not much time. But I do want to ask the question again, Anthony. I'll start with you. In terms of DMCs, they tend to say they're busy. You know, they're kind of very busy doing what they do, and maybe they don't have so much time to spend focusing on this issue of legacy. What would you say to those DMCs?
I believe DMC have to look a little bit deeper today. It's just not airport transfer and a half-day city tour. If they really want to survive long time, they really have to do more. Recently, we adopted a village outside Kuala Lumpur to help them to market and make the village much more sustainable, rainwater harvesting, organic farming, to teach them, because sometimes they have lost the idea of natural farming. So as a DMC that's creative, we actually show them, because we also have our own organic farm. So because they lack marketing, they do not know how to do it. So as a DMC, which is probably the largest now in the country, you know, we are now 46 years, we have 130 staff, you know. So, you know, we have to do more. But our customer generally is from Europe, and they appreciate what we do. But the Asian customer are also beginning to appreciate that. Taiwan, you know, Japan, Korea, even China, they are beginning to appreciate sustainability. What is the DMC doing much more? Then you will get the customer. You just have to put that extra. Then you will know. Yeah, and also as a DMC, you need to be certified sustainable, because where is your benchmark? So it's important to benchmark globally on sustainability if you want to be a DMC and stay long.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on that, because again, the Permanent Secretary talked about UN SDGs, but increasingly associations are very driven by issues of sustainability and the UN SDGs as well. So Anthony's point about the suppliers in the industry demonstrating sustainable practices and even being certified if possible, that's actually a business benefit. It would help you be successful in your business, because the customers are looking for that. Going to move to Didi just very quickly. PCOs are very busy too. Why do you think PCOs should be focused on legacy? Do they have time? And if they're saying they don't have time, what's your answer?
Thanks. I think as a PCO, it's important for us to focus on legacy in the bigger picture, because it's what drives our team together. It's what puts us all in the same direction when we do our work. And it gives us greater meaning to the work that we do. And just like Anthony says, it's a lot more than just, being a PCO these days and being a logistics expert and moving things around and putting all the pieces together. Having a legacy gives us a greater purpose, and it also helps us to brand ourselves and to build a longer lasting brand. And it also helps us when we work with the convention bureaus, because we are all going in the same direction. We want to create something that is meaningful and lasting, and not just overnight. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. And that gives me a chance to let James, who's our long distance award winner for coming to us all the way from London, I think. James, we work with a lot of bureaus who are very interested in legacy. And I'll be honest and say a lot of those bureaus don't have the level of commitment that Business Events Sarawak has, meaning they say to me, we think this is all great, it's really important, we just don't have the time. What's your response to a bureau that says that?
Well, welcome to failure, I suspect. No, I think Didi nailed it. You know, the client wants it. The client is demanding it. You can't, and actually, why does this industry exist? It cannot exist purely for the purposes of filling Anthony's beautiful eco hotel. I'm afraid this industry exists to achieve strategic goals and to advance the organizational goals and the mission and purpose of professional communities. We're a communications medium. They could do this digitally. They could do this, via carrier pigeon. All right. But people choose to convene because they can overcome some of the most complex issues and challenges of the day. I think the key thing here is a mindset. And so if you're a part of an organization like Business Events Sarawak, I was delighted to hear the Permanent Secretary, he talking about PCES 2030. Everything hangs off a strategic long-term vision for a destination, while the same is true for a profession. If you can align the two, and you can drive sectoral ambition in maybe technology or biotech or fintech or whatever, then everybody wins. And it's about converging the interests and the ambitions both of the professional communities and of the destination. When you get that sort of a marriage, you achieve amazing legacies for all parties. So to those that aren't prepared to think long-term strategically about what the client is trying to achieve, and in turn, what your own government's and strategic vision for your destination is, they will fail. So less legacy is at the epicenter of your strategy. Don't even bother in this industry anymore. You can't.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because people are worried about their time, their resources. But legacy is so fundamental. What you're saying, James, is that if they don't do it, they fail. And that's probably a realistic message. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'm having fun. I hope all of you are having fun. And I think it's been very interesting. I want to thank our outstanding panel of experts. But I also want to compliment Amelia and her team and the Sarawak government and all of you that are there in the industry in Sarawak. Because as I've said a couple of times, Sarawak is world class when it comes to this issue. You're really in kind of a leading edge position and you're doing things that other bureaus and other destinations and other industries aren't really doing. You're kind of ahead of the power curve on this one. So I just wanted to commend you on that. And to say on behalf of all of us, you know, we're really honored to have a chance to be part of your launch of your tribe's legacy initiative. And we wish you enormous success. So thank you very much for letting us be part of your launch and good luck.
Thank you, Gary, and our panel speakers. Great insights from our panelists on how legacy affects the key stakeholders in the business events ecosystem. Legacy is not about the immediate, but more on the long term and how we can work together with the government sector to build a better future. Keep an eye on your email. A link will be sent to download a copy of the 55th ICCA Congress Legacy Report and the Best Legacy Initiative template. Follow BESarawak's Facebook and YouTube for the latest content. As a thank you for being part of Tribe, the rising impact of business events, here's a surprise you don't want to miss. Award-winning Malaysian artist Alina Murang will be up next performing Warrior Spirit. This song has garnered the Best Asia and Pacific Music Video and honorable mention for Best Costume Awards at the recent International Music Video Awards in the UK. We look forward to seeing all of you again in our next event. Stay safe and take care. Remember, every business event is small enough to care and large enough to make a difference.